Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
So the former FIFA president admits that the football is going in the wrong direction. It's very ironic that he's the one saying this because of the fact that he's kind of at fault to this. But we'll go down. We'll break down the quotes that he has, and I mean, FIFA is definitely kind of in a situation where I think they just aren't reading the room. I think you've had players that are constantly complaining about that they're playing too many games, and FIFA's solution is just adding more games. Instead of listening to the players and listening to their frustrations, they're making things worse. And I mean, prime examples, the FIFA Club World Cup, which I have been very critical of from the jump, because once again, there's just too many questions, not enough answers of how this tournament is going to work. And until then, there's still going to be questions and no answers. And we'll see how that goes. But we'll start with the first quote. I created a monster. FIFA was poor when I started. There was a director and development programs in 1975. Sponsors like Adidas didn't pay any money. They just gave balls and shirts. The first sponsorship deal that really brought in money was the one with Coca-Cola in 1976. Then there was public television, which suddenly allowed advertising. Football became a super product for television, a super show that could be sold for a lot of money. The first World Cup that really brought in money was the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. When Gianni Infantino became president in 2016, he sat in a ready-made nest. The money machine was running. Now he is fueling it more and more. I mean, there was a point where, and I think this is in all sports in general, not everybody was really profiting off the sport. And then it wasn't until, people started seeing the value of the advertising value of what this sport can bring, and sports can bring, is where now it is where it is. I think, everybody knows the World Cup, but as it got more and more commercialized, and I guess 2010 would be the pinnacle, because now you have not only television, but you have social media now being more prominent, especially in that time. So, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I will say Gianni Infantino did come, when he came in as president, obviously it was after all the drama that Sepp Blatter himself put them in. But, his job was to try to ride the ship, fix what he could fix, even though FIFA already is as corrupt as it can be, but try to make it to seem where they aren't fully the bad guys, if that makes any sense. And I think that's what he's talking about, like where when Infantino took over, the nest was already made and the money was already coming in. So all he had to try to do was, how do I make more money that they're already gaining? And so I get where he's going. We are witnessing the sellout of football. Take the European Association, UEFA. There used to be a cup for the champions, one for the cup winners, and another for the trade fair cities. Today is a Champions League with 36 teams, an Europa League with 36, a Conference League with 36, and then there is the Nations League. I mean, I think, at least in my interpretation from that quote, is yes, the Champions League is completely different from what it was years ago. The expansion of an Europa League and the Conference League was obviously money driven, was how can we showcase more teams and make this competition, make it more grander. And I think adding the Champions League, adding the Europa League, and even the Conference League has done that, right? Because I mean, Champions League, you're looking to see the best of the best compete against each other. Europa League maybe looks as like a secondary tournament, but for certain teams like that, this is like that doesn't necessarily get a real chance at a Champions League spot. For them, this is another chance to get some of that away from money. And then the Conference League is even, we got to see Olympiacos lift that cup right last season. It brings something to the people that maybe didn't never felt that they had a seat in the table. And so I think I do value those things. The expansion obviously was coming from the pressure that came from the European Super League, because essentially this 36 team format, the table format, that comes from the Super League. That was what the Super League wanted to do. So I get all those things. I think that was their way to like avoid teams from complaining enough. So they're like, here, there's the format. We're going to use this format. So you stop trying to like use these scare tactics for for the Super League. And so I get that part. Now the Nations League, I'm very 50-50 with it. Because the thing is with me, for the international break, while friendlies are cool and all, I just didn't see the point to like I don't have to always call up Christian Pulisic if we're doing just friendlies. Like I already know Christian Pulisic will be fine. Come tournament time, he'll do his thing. So like for friendlies, like I get it, but like Nations League, I think it was to make the international break mean something. Like they're not just playing our friendly just to play. Because the thing is also like we're risking injuries. It's another team, and it's I think once again it's that battle between club and country, right? Where my player gets hurt for playing a friendly. Like for instance, the big example, at least for recent, especially if you're a US fan, is what happened with Christian Pulisic getting sent back to AC Milan instead of playing the friendly against Mexico. Once again, it's a friendly, so it doesn't harm the US per se. It really doesn't. I mean, yes, there's bragging rights because it's a rivalry, but once again, like if Christian Pulisic were to get hurt, now AC Milan loses their informed player, right? Because Christian Pulisic, at least this season, has been very crucial for AC Milan. And so if they lose their star player over a friendly, it's one of those things that now like, hey, we're just not gonna let you guys call him up, like no more. And then now the US lose their best player, so it's a very like touchy subject. So I think with the Nations League, at least the games mean something for the national team, where you can make a valid argument to those clubs where, hey, we do need him for this tournament. And I think obviously prime example was when we saw them play. Obviously Christian Pulisic played both matches in the Nations League against Jamaica. Why? Because it's Nations League. It's an actual tournament. There's an award if you win the Nations League. There's money if you win the Nations League. So it's not a useless tournament, if you will. And so I think that's the important part of it all. So I don't necessarily see the Nations League as a bad thing, but I also can see why people don't like the Nations League, because it's just another tournament, but it doesn't affect anything because it's being played on the international breaks that we get anyways. So that's my whole other thing. But continue on. 48 countries are already taking part in the next World Cup in 2026, which is almost a quarter of all FIFA member countries. In addition, from 2025, there will be a FIFA Club World Cup with 32 teams. Everyone applauds there is a lot of money, but this oversaturation is leading to a dwindling interest in football. I noticed that myself. Quo vadis football. All right, now I have no idea what Quo vadis is, so I'm going to look that up. I think that's Latin. I mean, it has to be Latin. Quo vadis. Okay, Quo vadis meaning. Okay, so it means where are you going? Where are you going, football? I don't think the 48 country World Cup is a bad thing. I mean, I think the expanded World Cup is fine. That's not my main concern. My concern is the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Now, I think where that's the part where the oversaturation is. You're gonna play in the World Cup. There's no player in the world that would say, "Oh no, man, I gotta play the World Cup." No, no one's gonna say that. It's it only happens every 4 years. This is like the one thing that everyone wants to win, to represent your country and be able to say you're the best of the best in the world is what everybody wants to be able to do. So no, I don't think the World Cup is oversaturation. I think the FIFA Club World Cup is oversaturation because no offense to the FIFA Club World Cup, but I viewed it as a preseason tournament, at least initially because of just like what it was. It wasn't necessarily uh that had the hyper appeal, but obviously they're trying to make something out of it. But the issue is that it's just feeling rushed. I compared it to Firefest already. And it's clearly a money grab. And the problem is right now, especially now, that no one seems to really want to throw a lot of money for the broadcasting rights. Apple TV has offered $1 billion, and FIFA feels that they should get four times more. But that's the problem, is that everyone views it a quarter of what FIFA values it. And so I think that's where the oversaturation is, because that's where it's too much football. Once again, and then for the players, it's too much football for them as well. The World Cup is a different thing because that's a tradition. It happens every 4 years. It's not like they're going to do the World Cup every year. It's not like they're doing the World Cup every 2 years. It's every 4 years this event happens. And so I think that's a little bit different. I don't think the 48 country thing is bad. I think it opens up for more opportunities, more upsets, opportunities for different countries. Me and Hector have said it. We have a shot. El Salvador has a shot now. El Salvador has a shot at being in the World Cup, and I'm gonna be crying like a baby if they make the World Cup. So yes, I don't think that's oversaturated. I do agree with the FIFA Club World Cup. It is very much oversaturated, and yes, where are you, football? I think it's a good, and it is going to dwindle the interest. The FIFA Club World Cup will dwindle interest, in my opinion. Especially because the ticket prices, and I'll say that though, maybe the ticket prices is going to be wild. Ticket prices are going to be wild for the FIFA Club World Cup, and then for the World Cup here in the US, it's going to be ridiculous ticket prices. So that might be the issue, but we'll continue on. Almost everywhere is going in the wrong direction at the moment. Tickets are getting more and more expensive. Okay. With increasing commercialization, there is more violence at all levels, on and off the field, instead of remaining what it was, a socioculture asset, a place where you learn to win but also lose. Football is increasingly becoming a battlefield in every respect. I don't know exactly what that means, but I know the ticket prices have gotten weird. Obviously, we saw what happened when CONMEBOL came to wanted the U.S. to host Copa America. You have fans like trying to sneak into the stadium. Well, not trying; they actually did sneak into the stadium, which added a big controversy to the U.S. if they're capable of hosting the World Cup. But I think I agree to some extent. I think the ticket prices are going to be ridiculously expensive for the World Cup. I think commercialization is just going to be a thing. It's always going to be a thing. I don't think that's going to change anything. The violence part, I have no idea what he means by that. Maybe from people trying to sneak in, but like, I don't know. I don't know where he went with that part. Socioculture asset. I don't know what the fuck that means either, but where you learn to win, but also to lose. I don't know where he's going with this. This is where you lose me. This is where Sepp Blatter really loses me, because the fact that like you're the reason why it's like this now. Like don't like, and I mean he did start with saying I created a monster. So it is wherever you think it is now, it's because of you. It's because you made FIFA corrupt. You allowed the Qatar World Cup is all on Sepp Blatter's hands. the horror stories that we heard about, South Africa, people dying building those stadiums. But I mean, that's just construction. I know in general, but still, like, and I'm not saying that South Africa was necessarily corrupt. I mean, there's corruption in all levels of it. But now where it gets to this ridiculousness with the FIFA World Cup, where now you have like the next you don't complain about the 2026 World Cup because at least it makes some sense because Canada, USA, and Mexico are hosting. The continent of North America is hosting it, so they're all in the same general area. Whereas the next World Cup, which is supposed to be Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, but you're gonna have the opening matches played in Argentina, Uruguay. I don't know if it was Paraguay or what was the other, or Chile, Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile, but played over there. Like, if you wanted to do that, have them host the World Cup, and then the following year let it be Portugal, Spain, and I don't know why Morocco, but okay, Morocco. Like, if you really want to put any Sepp Blatter, you're the reason why it got to this point. And I think obviously he took ownership to it. I'm not saying that he's not, but I mean at the end of the day, like, this is all here because of you. If you would have not tried to get that little sneak money, maybe there would be a standard in this. Maybe it would have been stricter rules if you were to. But you caused the slope. You let the thing slide. And that's why the game is where it is when it became this money grab. You're the reason why teams want more money. You're the reason why the FIFA the Super League was even a thought. Was because all the clubs were like, I'm doing all this for pennies. Where I see you guys that are supposed to be these nonprofits are getting more profits than more than anybody else. I want my piece of the pie, and that's why the Super League came to be. So, Sepp Blatter, yes, you so hardly created a monster, and maybe that's the violence he's meaning on. But because I don't know what the hell he meant about that, but you made it happen. You created the monster, and yeah, I agree to some things that he says. I'm glad he's taking ownership to it. But yes, I do agree. The game is going in the wrong direction. Not because of money. Well, I mean, money does play a factor into it. But yes, I agree with Sepp Blatter. He created a monster.